We welcome you to U.S. Cellular Field in Chicago, Game 2 of a 4-game set after an Angels 7-0 win last night in the opener. Sox try to draw even in Game 2 of a 7-game homestand. And we welcome you into our booth. Jason Benetti, Steve Stone along with you. Sox were riding a 5-game win streak. During the tail end of that road trip, though, it became a 3-game losing streak, including last night, and the hitting numbers just haven't been there for the Sox.
Early in the season, the Sox weren't hitting very well, but they were scoring timely. Last 3 games, not so much in any real department. They're hitting just 158 over the last 3 with 4 runs, 15 hits total. They've hit the ball out of the park just 1 time, and as you can see, they're not walking, but they are striking out quite a bit. So hopefully that trend will turn around here tonight.
I think it's fair to call Matt Latos a pleasant surprise this year. 2 starts, 12 innings, 4 hits allowed for a guy who spent time with 3 different teams last year.
He's getting the ball over the plate consistently, and that big curveball, whether he throws it hard or whether he throws it softly, it's working well. So against Oakland, his fastball was very good. He only gave up 1 hit in 6 innings. That was pretty remarkable. Then he came right back and followed it up against Minnesota, and they were swinging at just about everything. Latos has been around the plate, and he's been terrific. In fact, when you look at the batting average against and you realize that he leads all of baseball. Now there's a sample, just 5 guys, but 098, 147 particular starting pitchers. Matt Latos is number 1 in batting average against, and this guy is throwing as well as you could ask, and tonight they're asking for a big effort out of him.
He came into the season with a career .351 ERA. He's pitching even better than that so far this year, and the Sox do battle with the Angels. We welcome you for first pitch just around the corner here at U.S. Cellular Field. Chicago White Sox baseball is brought to you by Miller Lite, the original light Pilsner. Cheers, it's Miller time. Honda, start something special with a great deal on a Honda, now at your Honda dealer. Xfinity, Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. Ford, America's best-selling brand 6 years running, inviting you to check out our fuel-efficient lineup at your local Ford store or at localfordstores.com. And by your Chicago and Northwest Indiana Hyundai dealers. Test drive their all-star lineup today. Visit buyhyundai.com. Back here to U.S. Cellular Field, getting you ready for Game 2 of 4 against the Angels for the Sox. And the Sox have made a roster move after the game last night. J.B. Shuck was optioned to AAA Charlotte. The Sox are now carrying an extra pitcher. Eric Johnson is up, recalled today. And the question to Robin Ventura was, can Eric Johnson pitch his way onto this major league club?
I hope not, in a lot of ways, because I hope we don't need him to a point where he's pitching his way on there for that. I have confidence in him, but it means we're having another game like we had last night if he gets in there tonight. He's going to have to work out the bullpen. I think after yesterday's game, that's not even, you don't even question that. He's going to have to definitely work out the bullpen. He's ready to go. I think at some point you realize that he's there for a security blanket of needing innings. And after yesterday's game, you need innings.
Well, Eric Johnson had 2 starts already at AAA Charlotte. How do you then convert him? How does he handle being a reliever now?
Pretty sure he's just happy to be in the major leagues. And when Robin says that he doesn't want him to pitch his way onto the team, he means that if Eric Johnson is here to stay, somebody's going to leave that starting rotation. So he would just as soon use him, as he said, as a security blanket, a piece of insurance, and hopefully, if called upon, he's going to do the job. And the one thing he has to do, whether he's starting or relieving, is get the ball over the plate. If he does that, his stuff is good enough, and he'll succeed.
Some help for a bullpen that had to eat up 8 2/3 last night after Carlos Rodon's shortest start as a major league player. Sox and Angels. We'll toss it out there coming up next. Welcome back to U.S. Cellular Field. Chicago White Sox baseball in high definition is brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. The Angels are now 20th in Major League Baseball in batting average at .233, and they show this lineup with Yunel Escobar at the top, Rafael Ortega just up from AAA last week in the 2 position. Trout, Pujols, Calhoun, and Simmons had a great night last night together. C.J. Cron, Carlos Perez, Cliff Pennington bringing up the rear for Mike Scioscia tonight. Stoney?
Let's take a look at the defense and how they're going to line up behind Matt Latos, Melky Cabrera, Austin Jackson, and Adam Eaton in the outfield. A familiar infield of Todd Frazier, Jimmy Rollins, Brett Lawrie, and Jose Abreu. Janner Navarro has become the personal catcher of Matt Latos because he throws very well with him. And there's Matt, 2-0, ERA .75. Opponent's batting average under 100. He's been absolutely brilliant, getting just about everything over the plate. The umpires for the game this evening: Chris Conroy behind the plate. Gabe Morales is at first. Paul Nauert at second, and the crew chief Jerry Meals is at third. So on a very cool night for baseball, Robin Ventura, Joe McEwing talking it over in their jackets. Last night was summertime. Tonight, moving on to winter, as Mike Scioscia in the opposing dugout, the 3rd winningest active manager behind Bruce Bochy and Dusty Baker. Scioscia just outstanding. Has a different kind of ball club this year, realizes they can't hit the ball out of the park. They're not exactly a running bunch, but he showed last night he will use the hit and run.
Well, Steve Matlatos, with those 2 starts, 1 earned run, 12 innings. He's the 6th pitcher since 1913 to win each of his first 2 starts for the Sox with an ERA under 1.
Coming out of spring training, nobody really knew what to expect because he didn't throw the ball well. And down there, if you're a curveball pitcher, and not that he lives and dies with the curveball, but he throws enough of them. And in Arizona, you just don't throw it very well. It doesn't break near as much as it does when you head north or when you head west from spring training. Latos has made the most of it. He's had 2 brilliant outings, and he's going to have another one because Carlos Rodon went 1/3 of an inning. Then it was a bullpen night last night. And Robin is looking for Latos to go deep into this one.
For a Sox team that's been outscored 10-1 in the first inning thus far in 2016, but 3 games over and a half game out of first in Kansas City as we embark on game number 14 tonight. Just home game number 4 for the Sox. And the first pitch is downstairs, ball 1. If you were not with us last night, the Angels had 10 batters come to the plate in the first inning against Carlos Rodon, who was helped out by a double play, at least his ERA was, once Jake Petrichka came in. Pitch fouled away by Escobar. Could have been more. After Rodon left, Petrichka entered, got that double play grounder to finish it at 10 batters.
Bullpen was very good last night. Jake came on for 2 1/3. Zach Putnam 3 innings of perfect baseball. Jennings for an inning and Duke for an inning. So by and large, a tough night for Carlos Rodon, something he'll learn by and hopefully turn it around in the not too distant future.
Talking to Don Cooper before the game, he said he feels like Carlos has already moved on from the start. They watched film today. They watched film from last year when he was going well. They kind of matched it up and decided to do some tinkering, and we'll see Carlos in a couple of days, but Don Cooper feels good about his demeanor.
He also realizes that the best attribute a pitcher can have is very short memory after a bad performance.
In the air to right field, and Adam Eaton for out number 1. That is a better start than last night.
Well, that fastball at 95 miles an hour, so Latos throwing a lot harder than he threw in spring training, certainly. And getting Escobar, who's a pretty strong hitter, to have some very bad swings at fastballs in the zone is a good sign.
Brings up Rafael Ortega, who began the season with AAA Salt Lake and was called up with the knee injury to Daniel Nava a few days ago. Ball 1.
Taking out a big man, 5'11", weighs only 160 pounds. Out of Venezuela last year in AAA at Memphis at 286. He doesn't have big power. He does have some pretty decent speed, can do a lot of things, but usually hitting the ball out of the ballpark is not one of them.
He started his major league career with the Rockies back in 2012, went 2 for 4 for a not very good Colorado team at the end of that year. You said a couple of pitches ago that Matt Latos has added some miles per hour on that fastball. Why do you think that is?
I think he's just feeling pretty good coming out of spring training, and you get a lot of confidence. You get the feeling that if you're 100%, and he is this year, you can throw it pretty well. Now, he had very good velocity at the beginning of his career. It's not like he's an older pitcher. He's only 28 years old. So if the arm is healthy, the velocity is going to be there. Factor in that he's a very big man. Look at the last time out, 6 innings, 3 hits, just 1 earned run. That actually was a worse performance than the first performance, which was 6 innings of 1 hit shutout baseball. But he's been brilliant both times.
Second base and Brett Lawrie for out number 2. That only run against the Twins that last start was a leadoff triple for Joe Mauer, a ball that Melky Cabrera took a risk on out in left, ended up in the corner, and an RBI ground out for the now disabled Trevor Plouffe brought that run in.
Matt feels pretty good throwing to Deoner Navarro, and for whatever reason, pitchers will gravitate to one catcher or another. It has no bearing on his abilities. It's just that sometimes they think along the same lines.
Mike Trout, 24-year-old phenom, who went 1 for 4 last night with a walk. Robin Ventura, we were talking a little bit before the game, and he said he went up to Alex Avila and said, look, you're not in today. I'm not going to break up Latos Navarro.
No, and there's no reason to at this point. But Matt doesn't want to throw the ball where he threw the last one, which is a fastball down, which is exactly what Trout's looking for.
That was elevated. He fouled it away.
That's more like it. That's where you want to throw him. I think you can throw it by him. And the next pitch, if he gets it up a little higher, he probably will. See a high fastball. It's the Xfinity pitch tracks. The first one in the happy spot for Trout. The second one, not so much.
The 5th youngest MVP of all time, Mike Trout. 0-2. Think that got a little bit more of the plate than Latos wanted?
Absolutely. He threw it on the corner. However, he wants to elevate it. I think we saw last night from Hector Santiago that face-high fastball can work very well for you.
High breaking ball, 1-2.
Trout, the 25th player taken in the draft. So when we talk about the draft not being an exact science, you see how well he's done. Conversely, Bryce Harper, the first player picked in the draft. Both of them probably rated 1-2, 2-1 as far as talent is concerned.
Nearly got Trout to bite. 2-2.
Everything's been away. A couple of pitches up. And that last breaking ball just missing on the outside corner. We take a look in at Deanna Navarro. This is going to be the breaking ball.
Checked it up. He didn't go.
Gabe Morales says nope. Ball could have gone either way, and it went Trout's way. We'll take a look from the side. Looked to me like he checked his swing.
So a 3-2 for Trout. There's a breaking ball in the zone. We'll do 3-2 again.
I think Matt was lucky to get away with that because it was a curveball right down the middle. Albert Pujols, although the batting average not too good, has driven in 10 to lead his ball club. And that young man with a dentist's delight, cotton candy. Dicer mouth blue goes very well with a gray outer shell.
Downstairs, ball 4. Takes about 3 hand washing to get all of it off. So 1 on 2 out for Pujols. With his 1,162 career extra base hits.
On base percentage, not particularly good. Albert, very strong.
Latos out of the stretch for the first time tonight. Albert Pujols has been a very dangerous first inning hitter in his career. He did it so often with the Cardinals. 124 first inning homers, just 9 behind the top spot in the tie Bonds and Ruth. Through the decade of the 2000s, you can make a really strong case that he was the best player in baseball, offensively.
Well, there's no doubt. And also, he was a surprising defensive player. He started out a third baseman with the Cardinals. They used him on occasion, very rarely in the outfield. But Tony La Russa told me at that point, when he looked at him taking ground balls at third, that in the not too distant future, he would move across the diamond and become a Gold Glover at first. I think the Angels now very surprised with his glove work at first base.
It's a slider from Latos, 2-1.
There's Albert over the course of his career, 311, only 562 home runs. That's not bad. 3-time National League MVP. Was a Rookie of the Year. I saw him in 2001. He was unbelievable. And pretty good after that.
2-1 on Pujols. Pitch number 21 of the first inning for Latos on the way. And off the plate, 3-1.
Ron Renneke, former manager of the Milwaukee Brewers. Coached for the Dodgers last year, moved a little closer to home now, coaching for the Angels. Good baseball man and a good man overall.
Three and one of the 10-time All-Star. Trout is off, and he can slow down. It's ball 4 on Pujols. So Matt Latos has doubled his walk total for the year here in the first inning.
This is one of the guys swing the bat the best of all of these Angels. Old Calhoun, although he does lead this team in strikeouts. Well, he's second actually to Trout. He's got 12. Trout has 14.
He's only seen Latos twice in his career, other than a couple games they were teammates last year. Calhoun 1 for 2 at the plate against Latos, 28-year-old outfielder. We play him to pull on the infield. And he does just that. Abreu off the bag, feeds Latos, and that'll do it for the first inning, at least the top of it. Much ado about nothing for the Angels. Sox coming to bat. Reverse their offensive fortunes. Eaton, Rollins, Abreu at the top. Frazier, Cabrera, and Laurie once again. Austin Jackson bumped up to the 7 position, followed by Avi Garcia and Deoner Navarro. Steve, you have the defense for the Halos.
I do indeed, and Mike Scioscia is going to line them up this way. It'll be Ortega, Trout, and Calhoun in the outfield with Escobar, Simmons, Pennington, and Crone in the infield. Carlos Perez gets a nod behind the plate. That's Shoemaker on the hill. There you look at the numbers. He threw very poorly his first start against Texas. He went only 3 innings, gave up 6 earned runs on 7 hits. Second time out against Oakland, he was brilliant. He went 6 innings, gave up 1 hit and no runs. The exact outing that Matt Latos had against the Oaklands.
How about that?
It's astonishing.
It's eerie.
Life's coincidences.
Tell you about our picks to click in a moment as Adam Eaton takes strike 1. Well, I once again farmed out my pick to click to Twitter using the hashtag pick to click.
And you're going to later read why you did indeed pick your click.
Yeah, you've got to have a good reason for it, right? Eaton slashes to left field, and it hangs up for Ortega for out number 1. The crew has selected Deoner Navarro in the 9th spot. You've gone with Melky Cabrera, and notice the goose eggs on the board for everybody else. I'm going with Adam Eaton, thanks to @ParadiseKs13 on Twitter, who says Eaton for pick to click because he's got the luck of being a new dad. The new dad luck. for Adam Eaton, who is now 0 for 1, and the new dad luck has not rubbed off so far.
However, he did hit the ball very hard, and he gets to run back to the dugout with your pick to click, weighing him down.
Once again, an anchor as Rollins takes ball 1. Braden Zachary, just born last weekend to the Eatons, Adam and Katie.
Shoemaker with a good splitter. His fastball not overwhelming. It's pretty good, but the splitter is really the pitch. And that will determine if he has a very good day and a bad day. Now, he's a fly ball pitcher, so that hard line drive by Eaton should come as no surprise. There you see the major league career. 24 and 15, that's pretty good in 47 starts. And a couple of years ago, he was absolutely brilliant.
Last 2 seasons, really, he's come on the scene for the Angels. 3 years ago, made his debut. Is that a clownfish? Steve,
That's exactly what that is.
Is that Nemo? Mine?
It's pronounced Nemo.
2-2. Jimmy Rollins.
A couple of years ago, 16 and 4 for Shoemaker, ERA 3.04 in 20 starts, 27 appearances, and he's been trying to live up to that since.
2-2. Went fastball, Rollins to left, and Ortega buckles for out number 2.
He didn't see that ball. He started out, he saw it, and then the ball did not get above the lights, and all of a sudden, he got very lucky. You see him here. He can see it. He can't see it there, and as you can see, he put the glove where he thought it was going to be, and unfortunately for Jimmy Rollins, and fortunately for Rafael Ortega, he was able to make the catch. So 2 out, 2 line drives.
He thought he was going to catch one in the kisser there for a moment.
It's very difficult if the ball is in those lights, especially when nighttime hasn't taken over yet. It's dusk here in Chicago.
Jose Abreu, just 1 for his last 15, takes a strike, and we mentioned it yesterday. It's so rare to see him in even a 3-game slump without a hit. It's only happened twice in his now 3rd season in Major League Baseball. 0-2.
Pretty decent slider. And now Jose's got to lay off that sweeping breaking ball away. That's been one of the bigger problems, and that's exactly what Perez calls for.
Laid off at that time, 1-2. 1 for 6, 4 strikeouts all time for Abreu against Shoemaker. He has got at least in spring training, he led the league in foul balls off his own body. Jose Abreu.
Combination of quick hands and the fact that a lot of people are going to throw him inside, and when you throw a sinker in, it is coming in on you. You hit the top of the ball because it's a sinker, and more times than not, you're going to foul it off your lead foot. We've seen Jose foul it off his back foot, but that can't be too comfortable.
It's one number we haven't seen yet from the kids at Fangraphs. How many foul balls off your leg?
I've seen just
somebody's
about
got
every other number.
You were learning about true average today before the game.
I was. Very interesting.
Up and in. Nice plate appearance by Abreu. 3-2. He'll see a 7th pitch.
29 years old. And Shoemaker will turn 30 on September 27th. 6'2", 225. Substantial man.
Sturdily built. Abreu popped it up. Pennington leaves it for Simmons. 1-2-3 inning for Matt Shoemaker. No score after 1 tonight at U.S. Cellular. Matt Latos back out after this.
That's a haunting look at the Chicago sky here tonight. No score. Beautiful cinematography from our crew. That's eye black work right there.
Well, in case you get a foul ball that gets up in the lights, it's good to take the glare off.
Were you a big eye black guy when you pitched?
No.
Put all the war paint on?
Absolutely not.
No?
I wore a fright mask. Trying to scare the hitter.
Before the Scream movies came out, you had one of those.
Didn't work.
Long jaw. Late toast downstairs to Andrelton Simmons. That's a first pitch ball to 4 of the first 6 batters. There you go. The angular eye black for the young one on the right. And a phone call going on for the other one. How about that? They grow up fast, don't they? They're doing business in the stands on a Tuesday night. Hello? 50 shares. Sell, sell.
You have to work to walk Simmons, and nobody this year has been able to do it yet.
For his career, right now, 123 walks, 188 strikeouts. So, yeah, he doesn't walk a whole lot, but doesn't strike out much either.
That's one of the things Mike Scioscia before the game said about his team. The fact is they're not hitting a lot of home runs, but they are putting the ball in play. So you have a team that will hit some home runs. There are some guys in this lineup. Trout, Pujols, Calhoun can all hit the ball out of the park. Cron can hit the ball out of the park. They just haven't done it yet. And you hope that you are not around when they start to hit home runs.
Two and two. Got away from him. 3-2. One of the best defensive players in the American League, Andrelton Simmons, will be followed by C.J. Cron tonight, who had 3 hits yesterday. Beat into the ground for Frazier, who was sterling defensively last night. He's got a 5-3 grounder on his first chance this evening.
You'd have to figure if that ball stayed in the ballpark, Simmons was going to swing at it. Last night, some unbelievable defense. This one down the line, crossing over into foul territory, and he guns him out at first. Then he shows you very quick reflexes to his left. And a good pick on the other end by Jose Abreu. Another dive to his left and another put out. So although he would like to be swinging the bat better, he is playing a sterling defense at third base.
Fouled off by Cron. Talking to Todd, they're doing some early hitting today, and talking to him around the batting cage. He said the first ball that got by me into left for the base hit, I thought, oh, it's coming fast tonight. So that's he dove at the next one. He thought, oh, maybe I should have dove at the first one. Got him on track. Jammed him. 0-2.
2 pretty good pitches because those fastballs were right in on the hands of C.J. Cron, and he couldn't get his hands out. So this is a guy with some big power, especially to right and right center field. Navarro wants this one away. He wants it to sink. Pretty good pitch because he kept it off the outside corner. It was probably a little bit higher than he would have liked. It is a chilly night. That means that for both of the pitchers, it's going to be a little difficult with breaking pitches, and you can see with the winter hats on.
Impromptu Star Wars night in that section. Hat on a hat. It's like picture in picture.
And a big game tonight for the Blackhawks.
Trying to get back at the Blues. Nice pitch downstairs. Good sink on it. Strike 3.
There was an example of taking a little bit more off than he did the last time. Good stop by Navarro. Easy disposal of C.J. Cron.
2 down for Carlos Perez, the catcher, who's 5 out of 29 so far this season. We saw Giovanni Soto yesterday. Perez takes a strike.
Talked to Giovanni before the game, and he's a pretty good #2 catcher. Really won't call him a backup because he's going to get more play than that. And Mike Scioscia does appreciate a guy who can hit the ball out of the park on occasion.
Former catcher himself, Mike Scioscia.
And Soto can do just that. But his #1 is Perez. And there's a look at Mike with Dino Ebel sitting to his right. Of course, if he's hard to see, well, you can see no Ebel.
Abreu lets it fly away. If only we all could do that. It's been a confusing weather pattern here, and that gentleman got stung. It doesn't help that it's 50 degrees tonight.
He learned a very valuable lesson.
What's
that
that?
is, either bring a glove or let somebody else try to catch it.
1-2 on Perez. Popped it foul. Navarro gives it a run. And into the stands off the bounce.
There's an example. Sometimes you catch a break on a bad pitch. That was a hanging curveball, but it was hung so high that Perez couldn't do much with it. It's the rolling curveballs that actually get hit harder than the hanging curveballs. You see where the #4 appears. It was out of the zone, but face high. It's hard to get on top and hit it hard.
1-2. Downstairs. So if folks are at home watching and they're saying, how do I identify the difference between a rolling curveball and a hanging curveball? What's the difference?
Well, a hanging curveball usually is going to stay out of the zone. A rolling curveball is going to come in the zone, but it's going to be a gradual break. You want the sharpest break possible to change planes on the ball. That's what deceives the hitter. If the ball rolls up there, a hitter can follow it all the way and then usually put the good part of the bat on it.
Low fastball. It's full from Latos to Perez with Cliff Pennington on deck, the 9-hitter for the Angels. There's Cliff, who's had 12 at-bats thus far this season. Ball 4, third walk drawn by the Angels tonight. And where that hurts you, no runs across, but where that hurts you is you used the bullpen for 8 2/3 last night. It ramps up the pitch count for Latos to 41 here in the second inning.
And if you didn't see the pregame, we talked about Eric Johnson being recalled from the minor leagues. He's going to be available out of the bullpen, although he's been a starting pitcher most of his career. And Cliff Pennington, probably the better of the two defenders at second base over Giovitella. But Giovitella probably a little bit more potent bat.
Former Angel J.B. Shuck sent down to AAA Charlotte, which leaves the Sox with currently 3 bench players offensively: Avila, Saladino, and Sands tonight. Nip the corner, 1-1.
You might remember Pennington from his days with the Oakland Ball Club. He was there for a while.
He is one of 3 all-time Penningtons in Major League Baseball. Brad Pennington in the 90s and 1917 St. Louis Brown Cupid Pennington.
How could I forget Cupid?
He was a dog.
Pretty good break on that call. Not on necessarily the pun, but on the call, certainly.
A bad break. 1-2 for Pennington, 31-year-old utility player. In the dirt, and Navarro stays in front of it, 2-2.
Most of the walks have been when Matt Latos has been far ahead in the count. He had Trout 0-2 before losing him, then Pujols behind in that particular at bat. And the walk to Perez after getting ahead of him.
Perez at first, 2 out, second inning. Fouled off.
Pennington last year split his year between Arizona and Toronto. 72 games with the Diamondbacks, 33 with the Blue Jays. Didn't get a whole lot of play in. That seems to have found a home, and if not exactly a platoon system, certainly an area where he's going to get some work against the right-handers especially.
Swing and a miss this time. Navarro completes the out. Second strikeout for Latos in the inning. No harm done with a 2-out walk. Sox have Frazier, Cabrera, Laurie on the way.
UGNTV.com, sponsored by Jeff Vukovich, your local nationwide insurance agent serving the area for 38 years. To join the nation, visit jeffvuk.com because Nationwide is on your side.
Only mine or everybody's?
Everyone, but especially yours, because I was a little late to the game today, as you probably noticed, because I had to hose off my car parking next to the biohazard of an automobile that you have parked right next to mine. So we have to work on that. We have to get you something that befits your status.
You're saying it needs to be disposed of in a special bin?
No, I think it's actually very average.
Nicest thing anybody's ever said about my car. Frazier takes a strike. He's hitting 154, slugging 308 with 2 doubles, 2 homers. You know, watching him in batting practice, and this goes for a lot of guys, so it's not anything earth-shattering, but his strength, even on tough pitches to hit, he can take the ball out with great force, even when the ball's not in the zone. He's an impressive hitter when he gets going. He hadn't gotten going yet.
Well, he's going to get going, and this would be a good guy for him, because if he lays off the inside pitch, Shoemaker doesn't have a whole lot if he throws it out away from him. They do play him as a pull hitter.
Breaking ball low, 3-1.
We're going to talk about a conversation I had with Mike Scioscia before the game. I want to get your opinion on a couple of ideas that he floated, which were pretty good about Shoemaker in his 2 starts, but it has to do with a lot of different pitchers. But we'll wait and see with the resolution of the Frazier at bat.
That ball is hammered to left field, and Todd Frazier blasts off in the second inning, 1-0.
He got behind through a fastball right down the middle, right around 90 miles an hour, and that's home run number 3, RBI number 7. We talked about a pretty good matchup. It turned out to be a great matchup. And a 3-1 pitch is rifled out of the ballpark. Take another look at it. 92, it doesn't matter. It's straight. It's up and out over the plate and gone in an instant.
You know, that was an interesting reaction from Todd Frazier as Melky Cabrera takes a strike. You know how gregarious of a guy he is.
Yes.
He's usually talking. Even in the first homer he hit in a Sox uniform, he's talking to himself crossing home plate. You saw the stern look on his face, almost as if to say, finally, something good happened for him.
Well, Shoemaker fell behind and then came to him with a pitch that he just hammered. We're going to see a whole lot of those this year off that bat. Mike Scioscia was talking about Shoemaker the first time out. When he pitched against Texas, he made 36 pitches where he was behind the hitter. Second time out, he made 24 pitches when he was behind the hitter. That pitch to Frazier, he was behind the hitter. And Mike Scioscia said that not only Shoemaker, it's any pitcher. The more pitches you make behind the hitters, the more you open yourself up to be defeated. And you saw a perfect example of it there.
Fouled away by Melky, and to your point, in the first inning, his 3 outs were 0-2, 2-2, 3-2.
Yeah, so he was behind the hitter one time. And this one really cost him behind Frazier.
C.J. Cron pitches for Shoemaker, 1 down. White Sox group outings, a perfect way to entertain clients, promote teamwork, or boost morale. Enjoy special group benefits when you reserve 20 or more seats. The larger your group, the larger your discount. Visit whitesox.com/group. Steve Stone will also boost your morale by coming to your office and making fun of your coworkers' cars.
Well, assuming that you have the proper time, the space available, I'd be more than happy to stop by.
Here is Brett Lawrie, who looks like an extra from Fargo. He's from Canada.
Yes,
Shouldn't
he
he
is.
be used to this?
No. Not when it was 83 degrees yesterday.
Foul of third, 1-1.
Well, that's what it's like this evening. Right now it says 52. There is a bit of a wind, meaning it's going to feel like, 10? Not that much of a wind?
That would be America's largest wind chill differential from temperature. 1-1. Ball's hit hard and foul, 1-2. Well, 6 batters in, but the Sox look like they are squaring up Shoemaker significantly better than Santiago yesterday.
Santiago yesterday took advantage of, number one, a 95, 96 mile an hour fastball and got ahead of hitters and then threw fastballs up and out of the zone. Very impressive performance by Hector. He fanned 10.
Lawrie stays alive.
We talked about the fact also that Shoemaker is a fly ball pitcher, one of the most prolific in the league. And because of that, he's going to give up some home runs. The only out on the ground ball by Melky. The other 4 guys hit it in the air. 3 of them very hard.
Up with a fastball, 2-2 on Lawrie. Sox are making him work here in this inning as well. Every at bat has gone at least 5 pitches. High fastball does Lawrie no good, and 2 down. It's one thing Robin Ventura mentioned for the game today. He said, I'd like our guys to swing at some more strikes.
Very important. That ball up and out of the zone, reminiscent of what Santiago did last night to the lineup. But a guy who's gotten some pretty good at bats lately, although it doesn't look like it on those numbers. But Austin Jackson's been swinging it okay.
It's down the pipe for strike one. 29-year-old outfielder Austin Jackson, who's got 6 of his 7 hits this year against right-handed pitching like Shoemaker. Escobar at third, inning over. But Todd Frazier leaves the ball yard, leadoff homer in the 2nd inning, and the Sox lead 1-0. Cellular Field, Sox have a 1-0 lead thanks to a home run from Todd Frazier, Jason Benetti, Steve Stone, our entire well-dressed for the elements crew tonight here at the ball yard. As it was 79 degrees at about 3 o'clock yesterday, it's down to 51 today. We're hoping for better throughout the week. Family Sunday coming up on Sunday. Gotta have it be nice for the kids to get the autographs.
I would also like to thank Win Griffith.
You would?
For his tidy housekeeping before the game, because you were just a touch grumpy until he decided to take one of the screens down you had there, give you a little more room to use all of your computer gadgets and all those things. There's a look at Win.
Here's Win.
Dressed for the elements.
His cameraman WAR this year leads the league. You know that?
At this point, yes.
Yeah. I mean, his name's Win. It wins above replacement. He better be in first. That's strike 3. Nice run over the outside corner. 3rd strikeout for Latos. Join us for Dia de la Familia at U.S. Cellular Field when the White Sox face the Texas Rangers Saturday, April 23rd. First 20,000 fans will get a Jose Abreu plush Bleacher Creature presented by Total Performance Engine Oils. Visit WhiteSox.com to purchase your tickets today. And we on our prize shelf will show you in a moment the Jose Abreu Bleacher Creature. We actually have the Rockettes here, the Abreu Rockettes.
Here we go.
That's what you can have.
Beautiful.
Saturday, April 23rd.
A wonderful layout also for our shelf. You can take your choice of anything up here, assuming you win. Of course, we haven't quantified exactly what you have to do to win yet, but that's coming.
Well, I mean, just a great tweet over the course of the game. Something like that. You can tweet at Jason Benetti, at Steve Stone. Something strikes our fancy, we'll send you one of the Bleacher Creatures or a baseball. Or possibly that Chris Sale K counter
Well, you are also leaving out the T-shirt, which adds a wonderful background because it's in honor of Earth Day and it's T-shirt Thursday.
Line drive to right. That stays up long enough for Eaton. For out number 2.
Adam Eaton has done a great job in right field. He's a center fielder by trade, shifting over to right when Austin Jackson was acquired by the ball club. And Eaton has adjusted nicely. Very few people also are running on him because he does have a strong arm. And that time a line drive rocket off the bat of Ortega, but fortunately Adam was right there.
So Trout, good way to handle him. 2 out, nobody on. He takes strike 1. That's the way he came up in the first inning when he walked on 8 pitches from Latos, who's at 54 to this point. Ball's well struck and foul. 0-2.
Big difference. The first pitch was up. The second pitch was down. And Trout hammered it, but fortunately on the left side of the line. He came up as a guy that could steal all kinds of bases. His first year, he stole 49. Led the league in 2012, but as the home runs have increased steadily, the stolen bases have gone down. Last year he stole just 11.
Latos flirting with that outside corner again and just nearly nicked it.
Good call by Chris Conroy. This is close, but just misses.
Latos to let fly 1-2 in the dirt.
There's a young man who apparently loves fish. Oh no, he loves Mike Trout.
Huge Kevin Bass fan as well. Loved Snapper Jones, the basketball analyst.
Don't forget Steve.
3-2. I had Steve Trout as a pitching coach 11 years ago in Crestwood, Illinois. He led the Frontier League in tie-dye.
I was broadcasting Steve's best year, 13-7 in '84 with the Chicago Cubs.
3-2. Frazier inning over. 1-2-3 for Latos. Smoothly done. 2.5 deep. Sox by a run.
From the Subway third inning triple play promotion. Text Subway 3 to 97999 right now. And the 300th texter will win a $30 gift card to Subway restaurants in the Chicagoland area. Subway, Fresh is what we do.
Sounds tasty right now.
Could use a Subway.
The public
or
transit
two.
or the sandwich?
Preferably at this point the sandwich.
Javi Garcia, a career .274 hitter when leading off an inning. Swings at strike one. Nothing in two on a breaking ball to Garcia, who's won for his last 12, but has hit Shoemaker very well. 3 at-bats, 2 homers for his career.
You look at Perez, who wants a breaking ball away.
Why do you think that is? Why does Javi Garcia's skill set match up well against Shoemaker, or is it a small sample size thing?
A small sample size. You really never know exactly what the situation was or what he was throwing him that went out of the ballpark. But you certainly like to have that as a backdrop to this at bat.
Came inside, still 1-2.
Yeah, one of the things that Javi's going to have to do is either back off the plate or lay off that pitch inside off the plate. They're playing him around toward right center field, with Pennington playing right up the middle at second base.
Strike 3. Second punch out for Shoemaker tonight.
This is a perfect breaking ball, low and away. It's a good slider. And at 84 miles an hour, in a perfect spot, there's not many hitters going to get to that. Not unless you're thinking away the entire at bat.
Well, that is a physics lesson, isn't it?
Yes.
Jerry Sands,
They got
wizard.
him. They got him with the bubblegum tattoo. That'll stay on there for a bit.
It's a bad beat. You know, with the ability to have an iPad in the dugout this year, Major League Baseball, somebody could veritably let Jerry know through technology. Deanna Navarro has his second hit of the season, his first since game 4. 1 on, 1 out.
He is motioning to the dugout that he wants the baseball. This is a changeup out away. He does get a hit, and in the area of not taking yourself too seriously, he wanted the ball.
Cooperstown, line 1. 1 on, 1 out for Eaton, who's 0 for 1 with a fly out to left. He dentons a bunt, and he is out. Nice play by Perez. Hopping on it from behind the plate. He pounced for out number 2. Navarro to second.
Excellent play. This ball not far enough away from Perez. Adam would have loved to put the pressure on Escobar, who's been an excellent third baseman. But Perez able to pounce on it and throw him out. However, Navarro moving into scoring position.
For Jimmy Rollins, who's put together some nice trips to the plate in this series with a couple of walks yesterday and a double.
The outfield all the way around throws pretty well, but especially Calhoun in right and Ortega in left.
Top outfield assist man in the American League last year in right field, Cole Calhoun. Defensive runs saved, the best for American League right fielders as well. A 1. Right back to Shoemaker, who gets himself out of his third inning. Sox get a 1-out single. No runs. It's 1-0 after 3, and the bubble still lives. They're playing the Hawaii 5-0 theme over the loudspeaker here at U.S. Cellular Field, which makes it at least 15 degrees warmer.
There's no doubt about that, and it's probably because Albert Pujols is not from Hawaii. I would assume that's why they were playing it.
I thought it was just to liven up the temperature gauge.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Matt Latos is a Florida guy. He was a Florida Marlins fan growing up. Can't be a fan of the Florida Marlins anymore. They are now the Miami Marlins. Pitch number 60 is low.
Brand new general manager for the Angels, Billy Epler, who spent a great deal of time with the New York Yankees.
By the way, some good news for Sox fans and Angel fans. Scott Radinsky, the former White Sox pitcher, the bullpen coach for the Angels, who was rushed to the hospital a couple of days ago with chest pains. He is home resting after undergoing tests. So good news for Scott Radinsky.
Pretty good left-hand pitcher in his day.
Is his day longer than your day?
No.
You had a long day.
Close, but no.
Every day's a long day with you. 3-1 on Pujols, who walked in the first, part of a 2-walk first inning for Latos, who is yet to allow a hit tonight.
Tough pitch right here to Pujols.
Got away with it. 3-2.
You got out in front of it. Unfortunately, Matt took a little something off. That was 84 miles an hour on the outer third, and he had Albert well out in front of it, looking fastball all the way, and couldn't stay back long enough to keep it between the lines.
.562 career homers, one behind Reggie Jackson for 13th all time. That was up and away, and Brett Lawrie got him. Nice work by Latos to rid himself of Pujols. Every Monday, the White Sox will feature a flash sale in which 200 tickets in select lower level seating categories will be available for just $10 Each sale runs for 24 hours or whenever the tickets are gone. That's what makes it a flash sale. Very quick. For full details, visit the whitesox.com/flash sale. whitesox.com/flash sale. And please nobody alert Jerry Sands.
Eventually someone is going to mention to him that he has a little bubble on his hat.
It is no fun being the new guy.
No, but those are just some of the charming aspects of baseball that you have to get used to when you are the new guy.
Do you have a list of those charming aspects for up-and-coming rookies?
Yes, some of them are so charming that we can't mention them on the air, but
overloaded with charm.
There's a young fan certainly enjoying the baseball, enjoying the score, if not the temperatures.
Sox leading on a Todd Frazier homer. Ball is up and out to Cole Calhoun.
I mentioned Billy Epler for a reason. We'll talk a little bit about his philosophy as opposed to some of the other general managers as far as sabermetrics and a lot of the various numbers that every front office deals with on a daily basis.
Well, you had an interesting conversation with Mike Scioscia before the game about that very topic.
Right, and it centers around Billy Epler because I asked him if he was one of the general managers being around the game for a while, but a younger general manager. And he said, look, everybody uses the sabermetrics aspect. Everybody has a full department that's dedicated to just that. A lot of numbers and quantifying what players can and can't do. But what he said that was interesting was there are certain statistics that are made for front offices in evaluating players that don't have a place in the dugout. There are certain statistics that have a great place in the dugout that a manager can use along with his coaches, especially about defensive lineups and shifts, and like this shift that they have for Calhoun at this point. But he said a lot of people don't know the difference between the two.
But for example, UZR is this longitudinal, large-scale defensive metric. But what does it tell you about a guy in the middle of a game? Not much, because you need a large sample size.
No, and there's other things certainly that teams will use when they look at a player and say, should we evaluate him? Does he fit into our team? And then they look at the numbers inside the numbers. They can make a pretty good evaluation about that. But when talking about a guy and what they can use for a specific game, it's a different story.
Punch to center, Austin Jackson on the case, out number 2.
But I think Scioscia, who was one of those guys who, as an older baseball guy who's been around a long time, everybody just assumes that, well, he doesn't want anything to do with statistics. He doesn't want to know about the newer aspects of the game. That's not true. He understands the newer aspects of the game. He understands the statistics and how they're used and how you can quantify what certain players can and can't do. But he said there's some that just don't apply to the dugout during the course of a game. They're better left off in the front office. And he says Billy Epler knows the difference between the two.
First pitch hunting, Andrelton Simmons, and Matt Latos completes another 1, 2, 3 innings. 7 in a row set aside by Latos. Another dandy for him as Jerry Sands continues forth through the world. 1-0 Sox with the lead over the Angels. Bottom of the fourth inning. Abreu, Frazier, and Cabrera to bat. 3-4-5 for the Sox and a 1-0 lead. Their first lead of the series after taking it on the chin in the first inning last night. Never really were in the game. And a nice response by both Todd Frazier and Matt Latos today. Shoemaker to Abreu, and he launches. Deep left center field. Out of here.
Home run number 3, RBI number 6. When you've got a fly ball pitcher and you've got a team that's got some strength, you're going to give up some home runs. First ball, fastball, down the middle, and gone. Trout thought he might have had a shot at it. He went back to the wall. The leap in vain, as that one makes it in the second row of the bleachers.
Sox came in with 6 homers on the year. They have 2 more today, as this one is pushed out to left field and a base hit for Frazier, who's now 2 for 2. Should say 9 homers this year, coming in now 11 for the Sox. Angels have 6.
That was the off-speed pitch. I think it was probably the splitter that he didn't get down low enough, and so 2 pitches, 2 hits, one of the lengthy variety, the other of the looping variety. But Todd Frazier, at this point, he's going to take anything, and you'd have to figure it was just a matter of time. He's going to torment a lot of pitchers in the American League this year.
We talked about it before the game. He's seeing some of these pitchers for the first time. He's been a National League hitter with Cincinnati, and there's some interleague play, but not nearly the volume of at-bats. As Melky takes a strike. Cabrera bounced out to C.J. Cron, the first baseman, who threw to Shoemaker for the first out of the second inning after the Frazier homer. The Sox went 4-2 on that road trip, and there were not a lot of innings that started with batters on. Sox had trouble getting the leadoff man aboard, so now they got a homer and a single, and you can feel it in the ballpark. You can feel that starting to bubble over with the crowd. Slash to left field, and that gets down for Melky Cabrera.
Three hitters, one towering home run, a couple of balls hit to left field. This one hit a little harder than Frazier's. Both of them very effective as it falls in front of Ortega. So a great way to start the fourth inning, the heart of the order. The second time they're looking at Shoemaker, and for Shoemaker it hasn't been all that effective.
In certain circumstances, you might be tempted to bunt here to get the runners over, but with 3 straight reaching, you may holster that weapon. We'll see. Pretty good pitch to hit.
Got a breaking ball. It was down the middle on the outer third, and you would have to think if he doesn't get Laurie, we're going to see Charles Nagy, who's the pitching coach. You might remember him from his days with the Cleveland Indians. Pretty good pitcher.
Oh, 2 for Laurie, who was on a 7-game hit streak before yesterday's 0 for 4. It's 2 on, nobody out in this fourth inning. Laid off that one, 1-2.
Well, he figured if it was good enough on strike 2, he would go back there again. But Brett did not expand his zone. Austin Jackson in the on-deck circle. Pitch 51 on the way.
Through 3+, now fourth batter this inning. Came inside. Laurie spoiled it foul. There's Austin Jackson, who bounced out to third last time, up to the 7th spot today. He was normally hit 9th, and the bubble has started to burst. It's flagging. It's a flagging bubble, but it still maintains a heartbeat.
Still there. It's still an official, although damaged bubble.
Laurie fouls it off. Pitch that was away. He went that direction, and he'll see another 1-2.
Meanwhile, lost in a couple of home runs. Didn't diminish the fact that Matt Latos has been brilliant once again. He's walked 3, but those are the only 3 men that have found their way on for the Angels through 4 innings. Matt been throwing it pretty well.
Pitch number 6 to Laurie from Shoemaker. High. Perez tried to get him the strike call and didn't. 2-2. Abreu homered. Frazier singled. Cabrera singled. That all happened in a span of 4 pitches. Inside, 3-2. Nice work by Laurie to climb back.
Now, for the most part, in the at-bat, Shoemaker is trying to go inside on Brett. So Joe McEwing giving his set of signs. You certainly wouldn't believe that the runners would be going.
Charles Nagy maybe getting ready to make a trip. 3-2. Laurie stayed with it nicely and punched it foul.
This one of the biggest at bats of the ball game, because you've got the potential of a huge inning against Shoemaker. Getting into that bullpen, the pitches are starting to pile up, and a huge at bat for Laurie and the Sox.
2 on, nobody out. 3-2. Into left field. Ortega back at the warning track. He just got inside on him. 1 away.
That went up and in. Just missed the sweet spot.
Well, for a guy who'd seen fewer than 4 pitches per plate appearance this year, 3.86 coming in, that was a whale of a 9-pitch at bat for Brett Laurie. Things and all. Cabrera at first, Frazier at second.
We'll have to talk to him about that. A lot of guys are using similar devices. As the story goes, on occasion it will help the alignment and give you more strength. We've seen Victor Martinez using it with the Detroit Tigers. A lot of other players have and do.
Jackson had a notion and declined. 2-0 on Austin Jackson, with Avi Garcia in the 8th spot tonight on deck.
Back to the area where Mike Scioscia talked about Shoemaker making pitches behind his first appearance, and not all that many the second appearance. Now he'll have to make at least a couple from behind.
On the ground, well hit, and a single for Jackson. Frazier gets the stop sign at third. The base is loaded for the Sox. The first hit of the series for Austin Jackson.
A 2-0 fastball had too much of the plate, and this is what happens when you make those pitches and you're behind in the count. Shoemaker at 91 better hit his spots, or he's going to give up some very hard hit balls. That one rifled into left field, hit so hard that Joe McEwing decided there was no reason to try to score Frazier. So a chance here to put a little more daylight between the Sox and the Angels.
What do you want to see from Avi Garcia in this at bat?
Lay off the ball inside, look for the ball away, and drive it to right center.
Down, ball one.
Frazier, Cabrera, Jackson. Just waiting to score runs and sit comfortably in that dugout for a while.
Ooh, my.
Hanging breaking ball, and he got away with it.
A lot of major league hitters say you get one every at bat.
Well, hopefully he'll get more, because that was one. 259 with the bases loaded over the course of his very brief career.
Came inside, 1-2. You said it 3 pitches ago, lay off the ball inside. Shoemaker tested that theory.
Couldn't get him out of there, and wasn't his best fastball, but it was well placed. The fly ball pitcher, this situation, crying out for contact. He'd love to score at least one more, possibly more than that.
2-2. Shoemaker against Avi Garcia has given up 2 homers in 4 at bats. He went away and Garcia flipped it to right. Calhoun coming on. He's got a great arm and Frazier won't test him for good reason.
There was never a chance that Frazier was going to go, and Calhoun, not worried about a cutoff man, just sails it all the way to Perez at the plate. Now, if you're Todd Frazier at third base, what you're thinking about is perhaps you're going to have a pitch called that's going to wind up in the dirt. And so you got to have all your momentum coming forward. The ball gets away from Perez at all, you've got to be able to score.
We've talked about it this year. Todd does have sneaky speed. He's a double-figure stolen base guy typically in his career. Deoner Navarro, bases loaded, 2 down. Couldn't lay off, 0-1.
That was a splitter, and it was a good one. And as Navarro came to bat, Perez was staring at his feet because he wanted to see just exactly where he was going to set up and if he was going to set up any differently than he did in the first at bat. He's in the same spot.
Nice work by Perez to keep Frazier at third.
Talked with David Robertson about that very thing, and he said that's the first thing that he checks with just about every hitter that comes to the plate, because he's got a mental image of every hitter he's ever faced and where they set up in the box. He wants to see if they're going to make a physical adjustment to what he's done the last few times he's faced him. If he is a little closer to the plate, then he realizes he's probably looking for a ball away because he's victimized him with a curveball.
1-1. Navarro to first, and C.J. Cron up to the task to end the inning. Sox leave him loaded. Jose Abreu leaves the ballpark. First pitch of the bottom of the 4th makes it 2-0 Sox. First your bubble.
But
Time for the Mazda replay.
and that means that Jerry Sands is going to take a look and see exactly what his new teammates have done to him. He's, well, a little concerned, but at the end of the day, he doesn't know it's been on there for 3 innings.
Well, if he keeps hitting homers to center field and target field, I think everybody's going to either continue to put bubbles on or stop one way or the other. As Latos throws a strike to C.J. Cron. Matt Latos, 4 innings, the only base runners, 3 walks. Cron to center, Austin Jackson. We told you earlier in the game that Matt Latos is the 6th pitcher since 1913 to win each of his first 2 starts for the Sox with an ERA under 1. The most recent of which is a former teammate of yours, Steve Stone, Ken Brett.
Ken Brett, a wonderful man, the brother of George Brett. In fact, there were 4 Brett brothers. Ken had overwhelming stuff when he was drafted number 1, the 4th pick in the country by the Boston Red Sox. And again, just as nice a man as you'd ever want to meet. Unfortunately, he could not defeat brain cancer and passed away at the age of 55.
We were talking about this before the game. Ground ball, tough play, could be the first hit, and it will be. Perez with a dribbler single. 1 on, 1 out.
And the fans here giving a nice round of applause to Matt Latos, who took the no-hitter. We're 4 1/3 for a little tapper off the end of the bat. Found a very good spot.
A couple guys from the Royals team died of brain tumors. It's kind of odd, the coincidental situation medically that team had.
Dick Hauser.
Dan Quisenberry.
Yeah. And Kemmer Brett was there.
Pennington, a foul ball after a strikeout in the 2nd inning.
And after the leadoff home run last inning, a golden opportunity, bases loaded, only 1 out. And unfortunately, Shoemaker made a couple of very good pitches to Garcia and Navarro, getting out of the inning with no more damage than the 2 solo home runs.
Pennington got caught in between there. He thought bunt for a second, then took a strike. 0-2.
That's what happens many times when you're thinking about laying down a bunt, but you don't get a fastball. You get an off-speed pitch, and you lay the bat out there, and all of a sudden the ball's not there. So as you're moving out of the box and the ball hasn't arrived yet, you figure, well, okay, I'll try to hit with 2 strikes. That's what he's got to do here.
Perez at first, 1 out. High fastball, strike 3. 4th strikeout for Latos tonight.
First time he's really used that, and that is wonderfully effective. You see where Navarro wants it. He calls it upstairs. No chance at all for Pennington. Like to see him try to go up there if he gets ahead of Mike Trout the next time. But Latos has been wonderful once again.
We had his first start in spring training. 1 time through the order, he was fantastic, then gave up a bundle run 2nd time. Then he was out on the backfields for a while, had another start in spring training as Frazier's there for this one. And that'll do it for the 5th inning. Matt Latos is pitching his heart out for the Sox in his first 3 starts. He's got a 1-hitter through 5.
by Fifth Third Bank, the Curious Bank.
Always inquisitive, the folks at Fifth Third. I do my banking at Fifth Third Bank. They're nice people. For what that's worth.
Do they give you presents or other considerations for the enormous sums that you bestow upon them?
I'm planning to spend a significant chunk of money on a new car sometime soon because I am tired of your ribbing. Adam Eaton takes a strike from his former college opposition, Matt Shoemaker, and Adam Eaton were Mid-American Conference players, just like you were. Adam at Miami of Ohio, Shoemaker at Eastern Michigan, and lovely Ypsilanti.
Always surprised that they put out as much athletic talent as they do, being such a great academic conference.
You have your diploma in that suitcase over there?
Yes. Paid handsomely for it.
To first, C.J. Cron's played a nice first base in this series. And there's out number one. He's had a couple plays today that he's handled well. And Jimmy Rollins will bat. Kent State's finest here in the booth with me, Steve Stone.
Pretty good players came out of there. The White Sox certainly remember Dustin Hermanson in that 2005 season. He was a starting pitcher, the third player picked in the country. And the San Diego Padres as a wonderful starter in college and later adapted very well to the bullpen as a closer, which is not an easy transition, by the way.
He was in Montreal for a while too, right? Dustin Hermanson, is that right?
I don't remember exactly where he wound up during the course of his career, but the Sox will always remember him for, I believe, 34 saves as the middle of the closers between Shingo Takatsu and Bobby Jenks.
Up and in on Rollins, who had his doorstep darkened by that fastball. Is that a Snuggie or just a blanket?
I think it's probably a blanket, and the other fellow is making sure his nose is warm with that Band-Aid.
Stylish look. 2-1 on Jimmy Rollins. Sox have two solo homers tonight. Todd Frazier to lead off the second. Jose Abreu to lead off the fourth. Now 11 homers for the team this year. And Dustin Hermanson was a late age Montreal Expo, 97 and 2000. Cardinals, Red Sox, Giants, White Sox in 05, and then finished his career here.
Hurt his back, and that's really what stopped him from spending any more years in the major leagues. But a great arm in college.
3-1 to Rollins. It's a fastball popped up. Ortega races in for out number 2. Jose Abreu, who was just 1 for his last 16 entering this at bat. That changed pretty quickly.
The fourth drive of the game. Leading off the 4th inning. He hit the daylights out of one. That made it a 2-0 game where it stands. No sooner had Todd Frazier taken the team lead in home runs when Jose Abreu tied him 2 innings later.
It's going to be a race to the wire, you feel like, this season with Abreu and Frazier for the team lead in homers. One and one. Bounced foul of third. 1-2 for Abreu.
That time he had him just a touch out in front of it.
Well, the Angels show up here as part of a bunched up AL West right now. All 5 teams separated by 2 games. The Rangers at 7-6. The Astros 5-8 entering play today. Sox have a very top-heavy Central to deal with. Kansas City, Detroit, and the Sox all within half game. Each team with at least 7 wins. It's 3-2 on Abreu.
One of the oddities about the AL West is that not one of the 5 teams has a winning record at home. The best record at home is Texas at 3-3. So there you look at how the AL West is bunched up.
Shoemaker with a second comebacker tonight. And the Sox are finished here in the 5th. Just the second 1-2-3 inning for Shoemaker. And we go to the 6th. Come along with us next. Two 2-0 Sox with the lead over the Angels. We go to the 6th. Jason Benetti, Steve Stone along with you, and Matt Latos will oppose 2, 3, and 4 in the Angels order. As we this half inning will play once again America's fastest growing sensation, where we quiz Steve Stone about his own career. We call it Sticks and Stone. We ask you about a player you faced that used to play for the Angels or whatever team the Sox are playing. So are you ready for it? Are you prepared?
Well, I am, but
have you been looking at your notes?
You guys usually pick somebody that I've had all kinds of trouble with, which is most of the people that didn't play in any year other than 1980.
Question tonight is Bobby Grinch. How'd you do against Bobby Grinch?
Well, he did hit me in the thigh with a line drive one time. I crawled to it and threw it away down the right field line, so he got a hit and I got an error, which wasn't too good. That I remember indelibly. I also remember him hitting a home run when Don Baylor hit 2 in a 10-run experience in 2+ innings in Anaheim. That was fun.
You need to be yay tall to ride the 10-run experience?
It was very bad.
So he popped you with a line drive and he homered off you.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. But I'll tell you what, if I have a chance to steal your calendar for a second time, I'll be more than happy to do that. But those are wonderful calendars. And if you attend any of these Angel games, you'll get one of those. Not to change the subject of the great Titanic struggles between Bobby Grinch and myself.
So you actually had all 4s get to the ball, and then you chunked it down the line?
Yes, because I was determined that although he really hurt me with that line drive, that he wouldn't get a base hit. So I threw it away on top of it.
To second base, Laurie is there.
Nice deflection, by the way. It'll go 1-4-3, and that ball would have been a difficult play up the middle, but Matt got a glove on it.
Let's see how you did against Bobby Grinch.
Okay.
There's no line for welts.
Let's see.
269, that homer that you mentioned.
Yes, a triple.
He walked a lot of Angels, we found out the last 2 days. He walked Reggie Jackson 4 straight times, you told us yesterday.
But I told you that I did when he was wearing the Yankee uniform, which is different. But yes, Bobby Grich didn't do all that well. I thought he did considerably better. I'll have to phone him and laugh at him.
Hi, this is Steve Stone. Ha ha. Here's Mike Trout. You mentioned Don Baylor. He's a home run shy of Don Baylor for 8th in Angels franchise history. It would be 141. This one is foul past Frazier. 0-2.
That one just missed. And so maybe, just maybe, that face-high fastball that looked so good to Cliff Pennington might look that good to Mike Trout. Boy, Matt Latos has been on top of everything once again. Another sterling performance. One hit, that's it. Infield variety off the bat of Perez last inning.
0-2. Whoa.
It was off the outside corner, I will tell you that. Some would argue too close to take, but a good call by Chris Conroy. He filled up the glove, but as you can see where the 3 pops up, wasn't quite a strike.
1-2. Up, but not as up as you would have liked, right?
Right. However, still a pretty decent spot to Trout. I remember a wonderful at bat between Mike Trout and Chris Sale that Chris Sale will not be too fond of, but it was a tremendous battle, and then he threw him a straight change down, hit a grand slam home run. Not many people will ever do that to Chris Sale.
Navarro hung on, strike 3, down goes Trout.
He set him up with a fastball up and then went away with a good solid breaking ball. 5 strikeouts.
How about Matt Latos, huh?
It's been remarkable, and he is a poster boy for, with veteran players, spring training doesn't mean a great deal as far as performance is concerned.
I said in the open, pleasant surprise. Well, you know, again, career 3.50 ERA coming into the season. 0 would be a pleasant surprise for just about anybody.
I think pleasant surprise is starting to give way to remarkable revelation. Which, by the way, along with
you can do that into Quinella in the 5th.
What was it? Soreness?
General Soreness.
General Soreness. Yes, a wonderful rock band.
Popped up, Abreu, and a 1-2-3 inning again. The American League continues to be Latos intolerant. It's 2-0. In the Chicagoland area, he died at age 76. Back in 1972, came so close.
And Bruce Fleming didn't call it, Milt Pappas was most unhappy with Bruce, who was sporting the long sideburns, and then he did throw the no-hitter. Carmen Fanzone calling for it, makes the catch. Perfect game, went by the boards. The no-hitter was intact. And Milt, who came one win in the National League away from winning 100 in both leagues, passes away the age of 76. Was a teammate of mine with those Chicago Cubs.
Our thoughts to his family as Todd Frazier takes strike one. You mentioned with 100 wins in both leagues. See what John Lackey did last night? He's the 16th player all time to beat all 30 clubs.
Pretty impressive.
Al Leiter, the first to do that back in 2002. I mean, it's difficult to beat a club that didn't exist. So
it is that.
Sandy Koufax not going to beat the Rays.
Or a club that you played with.
True. If you're a full-time, whole career, one-team guy, you're not going to beat all 30, are you? Frazier up the middle. This is a tough play. Pennington gets around it and one away. Sox fans, join us Thursday, May 19th as the White Sox take on the Houston Astros at 7:10 p.m. First 10,000 fans get a free t-shirt presented by Prairie Farms and North Star Frozen Treats. Purchase your tickets today, whitesox.com, or call 866-SOX-GAME. We need one of those for the prize shelf. Or is this the one we have?
Well, this is the one.
Currently?
Yeah, this is the one that's going to be given, I believe, this Thursday.
This Thursday.
The green one.
The green one.
In commemoration of Earth Day.
Eco-friendly shirt.
And I am going exceptionally green. If you want to give me some of that loose change you've had hidden away in your wallet, we can celebrate on Thursday.
My wallet does not jingle. One strike to Melky Cabrera. 1-1 now. Sox lead in the strength of 2 solo homers tonight at U.S. Cellular Field. Don't forget, we will have day baseball next 2 days here on 35th Street.
Not surprising that Thursday would be a day game because it's getaway day, but day game tomorrow, so an easy hopper. Simmons over to first base, and Melky retired quickly, 2 up, 2 down.
You are a burgeoning play-by-play announcer, Steve Stone. Tomorrow, by the way, how about this pitching matchup? Garrett Richards, Chris Sale.
I think just about any matchup where you can run Chris Sale out there is probably a pretty good matchup. And hopefully Garrett Richards, who is a very good pitcher, will run into that man right there who last time up was as good as you could possibly be.
Complete game shutout. Oh, that's ball 1. And maybe only because Perez dropped it.
Right down the middle, belt high.
Some folks on the web like to pick out the worst non-strike call of the season. That gets calculated by some baseball fans who watch the game at length. And that is a definite possibility for worst ball of the season.
That's the leader in the clubhouse, I would assume, although it's early in this season.
And that's not to get on Chris Conroy. I mean, he's had a good night at the plate. And it goes to show you sometimes the catcher drops the ball and it bollockses up the umpire.
But when you don't see hitters looking back or catchers turning to the side and saying something, you know that the ump is having a very good night. Chris is having a very good night tonight. Old number 98, as he's known to his friends.
Are you in that club?
I used to love umpires.
When they were calling strikes for you?
No, just they're friendly folks. And they also have your life and death in a ball game in their hands, so you had to make friends with them.
Or else.
And in those days, you got the same guy behind the plate quite a bit because you had both National League and American League umpires. You saw the guys a lot, not so much in this day and age.
Perez picks it up, strike three. Laurie makes it a 1-2-3 inning for Shoemaker. The Sox maintain a 2-0 lead. Off we go to the seventh.
Sox fans, show your team pride with White Sox checking and an official White Sox debit card, only available at your local Wintrust Community Bank. Go to wintrust.com/White Sox to learn more. And remember, Wintrust Community Bank, member FDIC.
So Matt Latos out for the seventh inning for the first time this season for the Sox. And he'll go against Cole Calhoun, Andrelton Simmons, and C.J. Cron in the seventh inning. First pitch, fly ball left field. Melky Cabrera is there, one away. White Sox fans, celebrate your Italian roots with Italian Heritage Night, presented by Beggar's Pizza, when we take on the Twins, Sox and Twins, Friday, May 6th. Italian Heritage Night will feature specially priced tickets and a post-game fireworks show. To purchase tickets, visit whitesox.com/Italy. You know, it's too bad that the Angels won't be here. The story goes that Johnny Giavitella, the second baseman for the Angels, his family runs a restaurant, Italian restaurant, in the New Orleans area.
I assume that it's pretty good.
I've not been.
New Orleans has some very good food.
Yes, indeed. When was the last time you were there?
I think it was the spring of '42.
Actually, say the winter of '65, you were hungry, you were barely alive.
Oh, no, that's actually, I do remember being there, but it was a long time ago, and it was when the Orioles were playing the Yankees.
In New Orleans?
In exhibition baseball, yes, in the Superdome, in spring training.
Baseball in the Superdome, really?
Yes, indeed.
How about that?
Yeah.
1-2 from Latos to Andrelton Simmons, whose 11-game hit streak has not been pushed forward yet so far tonight. He's 0 for 2.
Only one hit, that coming off the bat of Perez in the 5th inning. Bullpen up and going just in case, but Matt Latos in control.
Well, we mentioned the bullpen had to eat up the 8 2/3 last night, but the back end of the bullpen guys, 7th, 8th, 9th inning type guys, for the most part, didn't have to pitch. Zach Duke did. He's still available, and Alber's throwing right now.
100 pitch mark. So Latos, an extended outing for him. This is 3 brilliant outings in a row. And I wouldn't think at the pitch count that he's at, Robin would be awfully patient if he did give up a base runner or so.
Last time he threw 100 pitches or more was June 18th of last year. This is a line drive and the hardest hit ball tonight for the Angels. Andrelton Simmons has a 12-game hit streak, and he's in scoring position in the 7th.
And I think the most likely is going to be it. We'll take another look. This one a hanging breaking ball, and you would think that Latos has gone about as far as he can go. Robin motioning out to the bullpen. Matt Albers will come into this. And as Matt Latos walks out with a huge cheer and a standing ovation from the crowd.
You saw the hit for Deanna Navarro as well. Hit him in the chest protector. He's been his catcher all 3 games.
And so we'll step out and be back after these messages. Up jam in the first inning. He walked Trout and Pujols, but then got out of it, forcing Calhoun to ground out of the first. And then he went on after 3 walks to fan 5. This one up the middle, and it was the first hit of the game off the bat of Perez in the 5th inning. He only gave up 2 hits, and Matt Albers comes in, trying to protect the 2-run lead. On for the 7th time. He's given up nothing so far. Total of 7 innings, just 5 hits, only 1 walk, 5 strikeouts.
So Albers to C.J. Cron. You see the movement on the fastball for Albers. Strike 1 to Cron. So now Latos 18 1/3, 6 hits in 3 starts. That is wild.
Terribly impressive.
Navarro had a thought on Simmons at second. Matt Latos, Florida guy who was with 3 separate teams last year and never really entrenched with anybody. Pitched 2 games with the Angels late in the season. He's found a home in Chicago.
And sometimes what you really need is an opportunity in a team that believes in you. Sox have afforded him both.
Albers to Cron. Well hit but foul, 1-2. C.J. Cron was 0 for 2 against Latos. He's got Albers now. Well, 7, 8, 9 has been Albers, Jones, and Robertson for the Sox. Trickling through the right side. Here comes Simmons. He is out at the plate. Adam Eaton chops down Simmons, and the Angels are still scoreless.
What a terrific throw by Adam Eaton. He had all the best of it. He came charging on a ball that wasn't all that hard hit. And we told you that very few people have been running on Adam Eaton, and here's the reason why. He comes up, takes just the right amount of steps, and then guns it to the plate. One hop right to Navarro, puts the tag on, no doubt. All Chris Conroy is waiting to see is if DeHonor hangs on to it. He does that. And a huge play could turn out to be a game saver as Simmons trying to beat the play, can't.
Beautiful defense by the Sox.
Take another look at the throw. Couldn't have been any better. One hop and right there. Pushing Navarro toward the tag, and he puts it on and holds on.
Through all that, by the way, C.J. Cron might have decided to take second base with the ball coming to the plate. He's still at first.
Doesn't have great speed, and you had to realize there was nobody in position to cut off the throw. So he decided to stay right where he was, and certainly the Sox will take it, because now you've got a force out in place.
A little high. Perez has reached both times. He walked in the second and singled on that dribbler that you saw a little while ago in the fifth.
26 consecutive scoreless appearances by Matt Latos. The longest since Jesse Crane's club record 29 in 2013.
Albers, that is.
Albers, rather.
Too many Matts.
Plenty of Matts.
Rollins at short. Inning over. Adam Eaton saves the day. Stretch time and a 2-0 lead. And the Indians are over 500 with a one-run victory over Seattle. And the Tigers are rampaging back in KC tonight. It's the 8th inning. That was a huge lead for the Royals early. Tigers have battled back. Dusty's Nationals are back on the winning track after the blown save from Papelbon a couple of days ago. And Pittsburgh and San Diego just underway. Arizona, San Francisco later. Bad news for Greek philosophers in the Valley of the Sun. Socrates Brito was sent down to AAA Reno just yesterday.
We hardly got to know him.
He will have a platonic relationship with the AAA aces.
I certainly hope so.
Yes. Jackson, Garcia, and Navarro for the Sox here in inning number 7 with a 2-0 lead still on the board. Shoemaker setting sail for his 7th inning off pitch number 93. Tails away, ball 1. Left-handed action, Jose Alvarez, one of 2 lefties in the bullpen. We saw the other one yesterday for an inning. That's Greg Malley. He gave up a double to Jimmy Rollins in yesterday's 8th inning, which was unremarkable.
Meanwhile, Latos was terrific. Shoemaker's been pretty good. He's been touched up for a couple of solo homers, and that's been it. Pitched his way out of a big jam in the 4th. For the story to this point, Matt Latos. 6 1/3, 2 hits, no runs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. Greatly aided by a wonderful throw by Adam Eaton, cutting down Andrelton Simmons at the plate.
If Latos is the above the fold news tonight, Todd Frazier is also on the front page. I know a lot of folks are saying, when's Todd Frazier going to start to hit? When's Todd Frazier? 13 games in. He's 2 for 3 tonight now. He's got a homer. He's got a single. He's 2 out of 3.
And both Frazier and Abreu hit their 3rd home runs of the year.
Outside, ball 4 to Austin Jackson. His 2nd walk. He's been on twice against Shoemaker, and we'll see if Alvarez comes out of the pen or if Javi Garcia will see Shoemaker on the 1st walk tonight for the right-hander from Southeast Michigan. Hey, Sox fans, you win with Papa John's Pizza all season long. Day after the Sox win, you get 50% off your entire online order of regular menu priced items only at papajohns.com when you use promo code SOXWIN at participating Papa John's locations. Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's.
Good chance for an add-on run, something the Sox have done.
Jackson bluffed going there. Garcia took a borderline strike.
Outfield very deep all the way around, shading a couple of steps toward right center. Quick throw to first, but Shoemaker didn't allow Jackson to get too many steps off before going to first, so he got back easily.
Knee-high strike. 0-2 on Javi Garcia. Sox lead it 2-0 on a pair of solo homers. Matt Albers has thrown 2 innings, 2/3 of an inning out of the bullpen. Six and a third for Latos, 2/3 of an inning for Albers, and another check on Austin Jackson.
Just in case Jackson was thinking about running at 0-2, which is normally a good pitch to run. Perez has got a pretty good arm. Gets rid of the ball quickly. Mike Scioscia says defensively he's a pretty good one.
That was not a bad pitch to hit on 0-2, huh?
No, he got too much of the plate. It was on the inside part, but he fouled it off. Normally you'll see either his splitter or that slider in the dirt. Instead, he wanted to get it way in off the plate and didn't get it there. He had a good portion of the plate. See Perez looking over into the dugout. Normally Mike Scioscia is the man going to give him the signs should he go to first. Sometimes you see an 0-2 pitch out.
Healthy lead for Jackson at first. He does not go, and 1-2.
That was a good pick by Perez. That was a sweeping breaking ball out of the zone, and he was able to make sure that it did not get by.
Shoemaker has notably slowed down the last couple of pitches with a runner on early in this inning. Got Garcia, strike 3. one away, and we'll see if it's Alvarez to face Deoner Navarro, who's actually been better in his career against left-handed pitching than right-handed pitching. His average 19 points better, slugging percentage more than 80 points better.
Well, I think at the 103 pitch mark, we're going to see Alvarez coming in. So a decent job by Shoemaker as he departs. Alvarez comes in. We'll step out and be back after these messages.
White Sox game, celebrate a birthday, anniversary, and more with a scoreboard message. Proceeds benefit White Sox charities. To book your message, visit whitesox.com/scoreboard. New pitchers, Tony.
Jose Alvarez comes in the game, and he can throw just about everything. On for the 8th time, he's given up nothing, as you see there. He's had a save opportunity, did not convert it. Opposition hitting .250, which means that he's given up as many hits as innings pitched. And he inherits Austin Jackson at first base. As you would expect, right-handers have hit better against him than left-handers. 20 points better, as a matter of fact.
And Navarro, again, historically better against left-handed pitching in all facets. Batting average, on base percentage, slugging. But as you said, it's more than they said to get somebody in for Shoemaker, who is over where they wanted him to be.
Extended outing for him, but a good outing as he got them into the 7th inning, and now a semi-shift for Deoner.
Caught the corner that time, 1-1 on Navarro. Second baseman Pennington inching toward the bag. They do leave that gap in left center through the air. To the pull side for Navarro, who's looking for his first hit of the season against left-handed pitching. That's a dribbler and a long run for Pennington, who is up to the challenge for out number 2. It moves Jackson into scoring position for Adam Eaton. He's actually been pretty successful this year against lefties at 5 out of 16 in a small sample size.
But now we'll see if the defensive hero can add a little offensive heroics. Ron Renicky is waving to the outfield to shade him to the opposite field. He's moving Ortega closer to the line and in left field, moving Trout over into left center field.
Meaning you'd imagine them, the Angels would pitch Eaton outside.
Well, you would think so, but interestingly enough, Mike Scioscia addressed that also about using shifts and then having pitchers be able to execute where exactly you're shifting.
On that pitch, Simmons was moving along with the delivery. He was still cheating back toward his normal position.
First 2 pitches not anywhere close, so he's fallen behind 2-0.
Saw Simmons backpedaling there. He's just staying in the neighborhood to make Austin Jackson realize there could be a play there.
I think he's got to make sure. If you look at where Pennington lines up, he's playing straightaway second base. So the man charged with holding Jackson close is Simmons. So he can't stray that far.
There's a strike for Eaton. 2-2 on Adam. Jackson at second, 2 down. Sox 7th inning. 2 solo homers, the only run so far tonight. 2-2. Simmons at short. He's a dandy, and that is a brilliant play by Andrelton Simmons to make sure Eaton's kept off the base path. Great arm on target. 2-0 after 7.
Nothing Sox. They've out-hit the Angels 6-3. It's been an errorless game. Matt Lato's brilliant for the 3rd straight time. 6 1/3. No runs on 2 hits. Fraser and Abreu solo home runs in the 2nd and 4th. And that's brought to you by the Honda Dream Garage Sales Event. Now it's your Honda dealer. And Nate Jones comes into the ball game. He's got a 2-run lead to protect. Taking over for Matt Albers, who had yet another scoreless outing.
2/3 of an inning for Matt Albers. 1 hit, no runs. So Matt Albers gives way to Nate Jones, who's hit more batters than he's given up hits to this season. 1-1.
The only thing you worry about is he has not been out there in a while. The final game against Minnesota was the last time he was out on the mound. On for the 7th time. 1.80 ERA.
Left field, Melky Cabrera ranging toward foul ground. He's got to play. Oh, boy.
Well, he's saying it's fan interference. And the question now will be if he's going to get it from Jerry Meals. And I think it's going to be answered. Melky going to get it. And I think the fan in the gray sweatshirt might have touched it.
Well, looked like it hit Melky's glove first, but maybe his arm was hit.
I think they've called him out. The question will now be as Melky goes up.
Yeah, the ruling on the field is out, and Mike Scioscia is arguing.
I think he wants to ask whoever is reviewing in the Angel clubhouse, and it could very well be he'll ask to take a look at it.
He's talking to Chris Conroy, the plate umpire. And the crew chief, Jerry Meals, has joined the conversation as well.
Well, Jerry is the one who made the call, and they're going to take a look at it. Now, Melky goes up. It does hit his glove first. Now, the question being, and it looks like in that shot, the fan hit the bottom of the glove after Melky touched the ball. And there it is again. Take a look. The glove is up. The ball hits his glove. Now, it was the gentleman in the black
with
hoodie
the cell phone
sweatshirt. Yep.
That's not the reason you want to be on television.
I would think not. And the question now becomes, did he hit the bottom of the glove after the ball hit Melky's glove? And if in the interpretation of the people in New York he did, then the call is going to stand, and the call was out, made by Jerry Meals. Now, on a challenge, there are 2 cameras that are not attached to the cameras that are used for reviews. There are 2 cameras that the Sox and the Angels don't see, but they're security cameras. They're not involved in the challenges. And so the angle that you saw, as well as perhaps an angle or 2, are being reviewed, and we'll see what happens.
This could be the very first double box involving a fan and umpires in television history that we just had there. The question is also, there it is, Jim Angio going for the 2nd straight Emmy on the fan umpire double box. The question is there enough evidence to overturn? That's the key here.
Definitive proof.
Definitive proof.
Right, to overturn the call as it stands on the field, and we'll find out. And he is out. So the answer is no. There was no definitive proof, but it looked to me like the fan did indeed hit the bottom of the glove after Melky was there to make the catch. So our best angle, you look at the glove, the ball hits it, and the fan does touch the glove of Melky. And the call was out on the field, and it stands.
So we'll find out.
A big play, really, in the grand scheme of things, in a 2-run game.
So it's a leadoff out and a reprieve for that fan. So Nate Jones will face Yunel Escobar after the brief delay. He fouls it away.
Escobar has been a good player for a long time. He was a shortstop by trade who was asked to play second base last year, thinking perhaps that he would move back to short, only to find them with Simmons being acquired. And he moved over to third, playing a very good third base. Mike Scioscia speaking very highly of him. He swung the bat very well. They're also very happy with his third base play, and it's not a natural transition to go from second and short to third base, because the game is much quicker there. The ball gets down to you much more quickly, and you can't be a stand-up third baseman. If you're a stand-up third baseman, you got a problem.
Strike 3, Nate Jones without number 2, with Ortega coming up. Follow White Sox baseball live with the MLB.com at Bat app. Stay up to the moment at any moment with Game Day live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your smartphone or tablet. I want to read folks the rule. It's 2D regarding spectator interference, just so you all know what the rule is. Spectator interference occurs when a spectator reaches out of the stands and over the playing field or goes on the playing field. So the over the playing field happened there. and one touches a live ball or touches a player and hinders an attempt to make a play on a live ball. So there's great discretion there for the umpire.
Well, one of the things that comes into play is
Todd Frazier again barricades third base. 2-0 Sox.
Robin Ventura by logging on to WGNTV.com and click on the WGN Sports Game Zone banner for the latest stats and information. The Sox Game Zone is powered by Dodd Camera, family owned for 125 years, handling all your photographic needs. Dodd Camera, where the focus is on you.
Is that where you got your photographic memory?
What little there is left, yes.
You can only remember pieces of things?
Right. And what I was going to say about that rule is that if the player goes into the stands, then it's not going to be fan interference because the fan gets to try to catch the ball in the stands. But in this case, the fan leaned out into what is interpreted as a field of play, meaning he leaned out over the stands. And
that's a condition of the rule.
Yes.
Absolutely. There's also Rule 3.16. When there's spectator interference with any thrown or batted ball, the ball shall be dead at the moment of interference, and the umpire shall impose such penalties as in his opinion will nullify the act of interference. So he could take away the fan's soda.
Here, give me your wallet and let me take a few dollars from you. That is the penalty I'm imposing.
That seems to nullify your act of interference. Give me a 20. One and two on Jimmy Rollins, who's 0 for 3 tonight. He's twice going out in the air to left. Here, he strokes one down the left field side. Big turn, going for 2, and the throw's offline. Jimmy Rollins does have 2 bases to lead off the 8th.
Good heads-up base running by Jimmy Rollins, knowing that Ortega was going away from the throw. He decided to test the arm, and this ball gets to him pretty quickly at second base. The thing is, it's way off the mark, so he realizes going toward the line, away from the throw, he's got a golden opportunity. Ortega does have a strong arm, but as you can see, this throw is nowhere near second base, and a very promising way to start off the bottom of the 8th inning.
Leadoff man on for the Sox for the 2nd inning in a row against Angel pitching. And Abreu with a massive rip. for strike one.
High changeup, and Alvarez is very fortunate to get away with that one.
Abreu homered to lead off the fourth against Matt Shoemaker, who gave up 2 homers tonight. One to Frazier, one to Abreu. Oh, and 2.
Jose was trying to go to right field with that one, as you would expect, to try to move along Jimmy Rollins. However, now with 2 strikes, you're trying to make some contact.
Alvarez steps off, and what do you think the conversation is here?
He wants to know what he would prefer on 0-2, meaning you want to bury the ball in the dirt, do you want a high fastball? Because many times when a man's standing at second base, the one thing you don't want to do is get confusion on the pitch and throw either a wild pitch or pass ball because you've crossed up the catcher, and only to see Rollins go to third base.
On 2 strikes. Inside, nearly hit Abreu. Frazier, Cabrera, Laurie to follow. On a windy and chilly night in Chicago that's seen the Sox lead since inning number 2. Alvarez on 1-2. Socked foul by Abreu. In again, 2-2 on Abreu.
He's trying to force him to pull the ball. And Jose is thinking about hitting the ball hard, not necessarily hitting it to the right side. That was for earlier in the at bat. Now he's looking for some contact.
Two. No, sir. 3-2. And a second conversation between Perez and Alvarez. One walk so far tonight for the Sox. It was Austin Jackson last inning. Three and two. Broken bat. Rollins running. He'll get to third. One down. Insurance 90 feet away.
Trevor Plouffe went on the disabled list, a strained right intercostal muscle. He was just starting to hit the ball, so for the Twins, that's a big loss. The injury report is brought to you by Dr. Anthony Romeo Orthopedics. If you have any shoulder or elbow problems, go to RomeoOrthopedics.com or call 312-432-2342.
The Angels will intentionally walk Todd Frazier to bring up Melky Cabrera. So how things have changed for Todd Frazier, right? Felt like he couldn't catch a break yesterday. He's 0 for 3, had that 4 strikeout game 2 days ago, and now he's getting the old bypass treatment from Alvarez, and they will force Melky Cabrera to hit from the right-hand side, where he does not have a hit so far this season.
Well, not much eludes Mike Scioscia. He's pretty good at doing things along these lines, but he probably would have done the same thing if Frazier was 0 for 3 instead of 2 for 3. So he puts him on, thinking about the double play. And an intentional walk.
Think about putting Frazier in motion here.
Not with a left-hander on the mound, no, because number one, Frazier's never seen Alvarez and what kind of move he has, so you don't want him to get much of a lead anyway. And what Todd will do, and he probably won't do in this situation, he loves to get a running start at first base. Now, C.J. Cron is playing in front of him. On any squibber to the right side, he wants to be able to come home with it.
Fouled off, 0-1 on Melky Cabrera, who singled in the fourth. In between two ground ball outs. He's 1 for 3.
David Robertson loosening up. And that's only the second intentional walk all year. Jose Abreu had one. And now Frazier has the other.
Melky gives it a ride. Trout and Calhoun are back. It's over their heads. Rollins scores. Frazier around third. The throw doesn't get home. The Sox double their lead.
That's probably going to be 2 bases and 2 driven in, as Melky Cabrera now has 5 runs driven in, stretching it to a 4-0 lead. And we'll take a look at this relay throw. Melky crushes this ball, no chance to get it. The big advantage is that it stays in the park because it hits the underhang. This to Pennington, who throws a lawn dart. That ball stayed in the air probably for 6 feet. Not the kind of relay that the Angels were thinking about when they used him as the cutoff man.
Tremendous bocce play, however.
Big double by Melky.
On 1-0, Laurie swinging away makes it 1-1. That loosens it up. Don't even have to use David Robertson if you don't want to here, although it's been a while since he's gotten some run.
Well, 3-game losing streak, and you don't mind a guy getting an inning of work. So odds are that he probably will come into the game. At least you would think that, but see what's on Robin's mind.
Ball nearly ended up in our booth.
That went into the Angels booth, where I'm sure Mark Gubicza made the catch.
How about that?
I'll tell you what, those former pitchers have wonderful hands.
Those ones. Yeah. Thank you for that. 1-2. Poked foul by Laurie. Again, that's not to say that you have to use your closer in a save situation. That's a misnomer in baseball, but normally if you can get away with maybe not using him, especially in a stretch of consecutive games until the first couple days of May, you might lay off. Well hit, but foul. Cabrera had to dance out of the way of it.
Another school of thought is that once you get a guy up on especially a chilly night like this, you might as well put him in the ball game, even though there's a short turnaround and a day game tomorrow. Right now, David already loosened up, just standing there.
To right field. It is 5-0 Sox. Brett Laurie drives in Cabrera.
That's his 4th run driven in, his first hit of the night. He gets a fastball away, takes it to right field. So big hits by Melky. After the intentional walk to Frazier, the manager makes a move, thinking to the best of his ability he's making it to put his team in a better position. Sometimes it works, and this time it didn't. And Melky, a big 2-run double.
A hug for Jose Abreu and a strike for Austin Jackson from Jose Alvarez, who is doing what they call wearing it right now.
It's Alvarez against the world, because Mike Scioscia has the early turnaround, just as our boys do.
Austin Jackson a drive. Calhoun and Trout back again, and Mike Trout gets to it just in time for out number 2.
Long run by Trout, who's got excellent speed. He was able to run it down as that ball was crushed in the gap.
Warm summer night, maybe a 7-0 ball game. Here's Avi Garcia.
Certainly that, or maybe against the wall, but I agree with you. That probably would have been out of here if it was a livelier ballpark.
Three hits in the inning for the Sox. 3 big runs and a strike for Avi Garcia. The wind is blowing in, so says the American flag. It's a big day in Sox history, by the way. Back in 1960, Minnie Minoso returned to the Sox after 3 seasons with Cleveland.
Well, Minnie was just a great player. And he celebrated his return, didn't he?
He did, with a grand slam and a walk-off homer.
Number 9. Great player.
Time called. Well, if you're looking ahead to the Angels' 9th, Trout, Pujols, Calhoun coming up, and that speaks to how important these 3 runs are to loosen everything up a little bit.
A little less drama when you've got 5 up there.
Strike 3, and the inning comes to an end. But the Sox get 3 runs on 3 hits, and we have played 3 runs, Melky. 5-0. Nick Jones remains in the game. David Robertson was loose and ready, but he will not throw today, with a day game coming up tomorrow as the Sox aim to even the series. They're 3 outs away from that as Mike Trout stands in, hitless so far tonight.
And what if I told you when the season started that early in the season, Chris Sale and Matt Latos would have the same amount of wins? In 3 outs, they will both be 3-0.
Do you believe that? I mean, that is not to take anything away from Matt Latos and what we thought he might be able to do this season, but I ain't.
No, pretty amazing. Great start. Latos was brilliant once again. If you're just joining us, 6 1/3 tonight. Nary a run on 2 hits, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. Absolutely brilliant performance once again. Teamed very well with Deoner Navarro, and they just got the job done.
Deoner caught that foul ball from Trout, who popped out against Latos in the 6th, grounded out to second in the 4th, and walked in what was the hairiest inning against Matt Latos tonight. It was the first inning with 2 2-out walks.
Yeah, after Escobar hit a fly ball and Ortega grounded out, the walk to Trout, the walk to Pujols, and then a pretty dangerous Cole Calhoun. You got him to tap the ball right at Abreu, who flipped 2 Latos covering, and it was out of the first inning. And after that, pretty much untouchable. Didn't give up his first hit till Perez in the 5th. Another hit to Simmons with a double in the 7th, and he exited.
Jones strikes out Trout.
This is a backup slider. Sometimes the backup slider gets hammered. This time, I think Trout was looking for the ball to spin over the plate. It backed up right in on his hands, and at 89 miles an hour, he threw it by him.
Pitch before that, Jones went 97 toward the outside half. That's fun pitching. I mean, you got a guy you know can hammer a fastball, and Jones put his head down and flung it over there. 1 strike on Pujols. 98.
Coming up, we have our Xfinity Speed replay, and it was just an outstanding defensive effort by Adam Eaton.
Rollins stations. 2 out.
A base hit out to Adam Eaton off the bat of C.J. Cron. He guns down Simmons at the plate. Good tag. Wonderful throw. And that's the Speed replay. Brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. What a play by Adam Eaton.
That was in a 2-0 game with 1 out in the 7th inning. It protected the shutout and paved the way for the 3-run 8th. 2 out. Jones gets a grounder. Laurie snares it, and the Sox win to even the series at 1.
What a whale of a ball game. Great pitching. Excellent defense. Just enough offense, including an appearance of the long ball. Leadoff home runs by Frazier in the 2nd, Abreu in the 4th, and then some late add-on runs. And that's been one of the characteristics in the games the Sox have won. Maybe to help secure a lead, and tonight the 3 runs in the 8th just put it away.
5-0 Sox win. We'll wrap it for you coming up next.